Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to show you how to rig the Jetty Cork and then briefly explain how it is that it's used.
We're going to start out with a size 2 barrel swivel, and we're going to connect that to the main line with a 4-twist trilene knot. So we go through once and then twice. We're going to twist it 4 times. Go straight through, moisten your knot, and then cinch it down. On the other end of the barrel swivel, we're going to use some size 25-pound monofilament leader line. I'm going to cut the first segment around 12 to about 24 inches in length, and we will also connect that with a 4-twist trilene knot. Next, we'll connect our cork, and again, we're going to use a 4-twist trilene knot. Very important to moisten your line before you cinch that knot down, because what's going to happen is there's a lot of stress and heat generated when you cinch it down, and it'll weaken your line if it's not lubricated to slide in easily and like cinch down perfectly. We're going to take the same 25-pound test and connect it to the same side of the barrel swivel that has your float. So we're going to tie this one right next to that, and again a 4-twist uni. Now what we're going to do is just reel in that line all the way to the tip of your rod right there, just like this right here. So I've got the barrel swivel right up against the tip of my rod. This is going to help me to measure how deep I'm going to fish in the water. I've got a 9-foot long rod, so I'm just going to unwind some leader line until I get right to the end of my rod right there. There's a slight bend in it, so it's not quite 9 foot long, but that's where we're at. And then we'll take and clip that. We're done with the leader line, at least for this one right here. We're done with that 25-pound test. Put that away. Then we're going to take another size 2 barrel swivel. I'm using this because it's going to provide some weight to try to sink my shrimp down the whole 9+ feet of leader line that we're going to be using. If you don't use a barrel swivel to do this, then you can just use a like a small sized split shot. I think that's like a size 3 right there. You can crimp that on, and again another 4-twist trilene. Moisten it. Next, we're going to throw on some 20-pound fluorocarbon. I'm going to use around 18 to 24 inches, somewhere around there, and it's going to connect to the other end of that barrel swivel. The fluoro, what it's going to allow me to do is, I don't know, just it may be coincidence, it may not be, but I have more confidence in using fluorocarbon as far as the fish being able to see my fishing line. Just call me a creature of habit. I tend to catch more fish with fluorocarbon, so I'm going to go with the 20-pound test. Right there, another 4-twist trilene, and then here we go. Right about there. That should be good enough. And let's go ahead and clip that. Now we're going to take a size 2 mosquito hook, and we're going to connect that to the very end of our line using a loop knot. You start by just doing like an overhand knot, the very beginning of it. Make that loop, kind of cinch it down just barely enough to where you can still go through it. Take your hook, thread your line through, and then go right through that loop just like that. Cinch it down a little bit, and then I'm gonna twist it around 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm gonna go right back down through that same loop, and then we'll cinch it down. There we go. That's everything. I just gotta clip the tag ends on the entire setup. Now, the reason why I wanna put this size 2 swivel right there is because whenever you're fighting these fish, some of them have a lot of teeth, and they start to scuff up your line. It makes it weak, or you can possibly get brushed up against the rocks whenever you're fighting them. I would rather cut this 18 to 24 inch segment of line versus constantly cutting on my main leader line going to the cork. And so that's all I got to replace, is just that right there. And also, if I do get snagged into rocks with my hook, then the 20 pound will hopefully bust before this 25 pound test does, and all I got to do is replace this segment versus the entire segment of line. And that right there is your jetty cork explained in full detail.
All right, so everything that we have in front of us is what you're gonna need to tie the jetty cork. This is the float that I'm using. You can pick these up at the local gas station along the upper Texas Gulf Coast, and that's what we're using there. The barrel swivels that I use are from Spro. It's the size 2, and then the hooks that I have are the size 2 mosquito hooks. I usually do not gut hook the fish whenever I'm using this, and it's also a lot easier to pull it out of the fish's mouth. Because it's a thin diameter, the likelihood of destroying your shrimp whenever you hook them through the horn, that's more often than not, that's where I'm gonna hook my shrimp through. And it will, because it's a thin diameter hook shank, it will pierce through the horn a lot easier than a very thick diameter hook. So that's the main reason why I'm using these mosquito hooks. They're easy to work with. Sometimes if we have those bigger shrimp that I'm having to work with because that's all the bait shop has, I will clip on some of these split shots on top of the barrel, that secondary barrel swivel. Because if you don't do that, those shrimp are gonna stay at the surface, and then seagulls will come down and take your shrimp. And then that's a whole nother mess that you're gonna have to deal with if they get that hook down inside their mouth, or you jerk your line back and then the hook gets embedded into their wing or something like that. I can't tell you how many times people have caught seagulls and pelicans, mainly the seagulls, because they will come down and try to steal that shrimp if it's strong enough to swim with the barrel swivel or a small split shot. So that's why you'll want your shrimp to be weighed down to go all the way down into the water column that you're trying to target. And so that's the reason for the barrel swivel. It acts as a weight, and then it's just an easier segment of fishing line that you need to retie versus the entire long one. Let's go ahead and show how it is that it's down there and being fished. When you cast out, your float basically, because it's weighted, is going to be upright. And then when a fish actually bites your line, what you're going to do is you're going to see your float get inverted and then get pulled down under the water. And so that's a clear indicator of the bite. The other thing is what makes this setup, this rig, so good is that when your shrimp is down there and it's weighed down properly and it gets hit, I can feel the little bait thieves whenever they steal the shrimp off of my hook. Because if you look at this, the way I have it suspended, here goes the main line, and then it goes one straight line all the way down to the hook. So as long as you have tension on your fishing line, you're going to be able to feel what's going on at the end of the hook. And if the bait thieves get away with your shrimp, you're going to know that you've been had and you need to reel back in and put a new piece of bait on. And so that's another reason why we actually use this method over any of the other methods to suspend your shrimp out there alongside the jetty, you'll be able to feel that bite a lot easier because, again, one straight line from the main line all the way down to your hook. Now, taking a look at the little illustration that I have over here, here's the jetty top. You're at the surface, and then there's a small little dip before it hits the other granite rocks that are angled going out into the water. So at the water's edge right here, these rocks extend approximately 10 foot further out into the water. You may not see it depending on the clarity of the water on that day, but just know that it goes out about a good 10 yards, and you want to cast all the way out and then retrieve your line back in. Just have that intuition on like, okay, I've been, like if you reel all the way over here and then your line is in the rocks, again, you start to build that intuition on how far out you need to be in order to make sure that you don't get snagged in these rocks. So essentially with a 9-foot rod that I'm using, I make that 9-foot leader line, and then the additional portion right here, the smaller 18-inch to 24-inch segment that goes to your float, it basically goes up. And so now you're just going to add this length plus this length right here, and that's the total length of your leader line. That's the depth that you're going to be fishing. And the magic number is usually around 8 to about 12 foot of depth that you're going to want to suspend that shrimp right here at the drop on the jetty. So again, cast out, you start retrieving back, do some guesswork, like, okay, I believe my shrimp is right there up against the jetty rocks, and all you're doing now is just waiting, because what happens is the bait, if you notice when you're out there, they're always swimming alongside that jetty. That's because there's the predator fish out there that's spooking them. They're pushing them closer to the jetty, and then the closer that they get to that jetty, the easier it is for us to just be able to cast out there, which if you're going to use shrimp, then you're using shrimp. If you use the finger mullet, like take a cast net with you, and you can use finger mullet. Either way, this Jetty Cork works for both bait styles, and you basically want to be in the sweet spot, which is right here, close to the drop. The closer to the rocks you are, the better. And just suspending your bait anywhere from 8 to 12 feet down, and it's going to be perfect. So that right there is the Jetty Cork explained. Hopefully you find this helpful. If you did, click that thumbs up button, and on your next trip out there to the jetties, you'll have some better luck. Until next time, tight lines, y'all.